Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chapters and Curtains. And today we are joined by an author and storyteller, Sutapa Basu, who has recently come up with a new book, The Constitution of India. Many, many congratulations, ma'am, on the launch of your new book.
Okay.
So basically, she has worked around this book, plus she has worked around a lot of fictional work as well. And her diverse body of work spans powerfully historical fiction and the book, The Constitution of India, which we are going to talk about today. So, ma'am, first of all, what prompted you to work on such a book?
First and foremost, thank you so much for having me, Avantika. I'm so happy to be on your podcast. And basically, yeah. So to take your question, I used to teach about the Constitution in school. So
Right, right.
when I would be teaching them, I would find my students completely bored.
Okay.
They did not want to hear anything about the constitution because they felt that this is a book which was written some years ago, much even beyond their own parents' births, actually. So how
Right.
does it matter to their lives today? That was the attitude that they had. And I found it extremely tragic because these young people were going to become the decision makers of our nation in a few more years. And if they felt that the foundation on which our nation stands is irrelevant, unnecessary, that was really a tragedy. So that was the reason I felt that let me try and write about the Constitution for them in a way that they will understand. So, I had to really break down all the concepts because I think there are sometimes some of the concepts are even so complex that even adults find it difficult to understand.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge, of course, but what I wanted to do is break down these concepts and break it down in such a way that they should relate to their lives. So they should relate to objects, events, things that they were familiar with. And that is the way I wanted to teach them. And that is the reason I think the book is an illustrated children's book because I wanted to use visuals to explain these concepts. So that the not only through a simple language but also and through relating to their what is familiar to their lives, but also through pictures. And so I'll just give you a good example of how I have, done this whole thing actually. So here is the book, and if I open to a page in which I'm trying to talk about you can see the full page. Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So here I'm talking about the rights, the principles, and the duties that are enshrined in the Constitution. So I have used the example of being on the road, you know. So if we are on the road, we have the duty to walk or drive on the left side of the road. We also have the right of walking on the zebra crossing. To cross the road, the traffic has to stop for us if we want to walk
Yes.
on the zebra crossing. At the same time, the government has these principles of safety that tells us that you must wear a helmet for our safety.
Right. Right.
And it also helps us. The government also helps us, like the policemen, they help us to find directions or they help in, making the children cross the road, the younger children cross the road, and so on. So just like these values, these principles, and these duties and rights keep us safe on the road, the values and duties and the principles of the Constitution keeps the nation safe. So that is how I, linked the analogy to a concept which is there in the Constitution.
Wow. So creative. So I also saw on the right hand side there is a map. There's map of India, and which has a heart or something similar made inside, and that's the replica of this picture. Is it?
Absolutely, because I have said just before we come to this picture that just like the heart keeps the body alive. The constitution is the heart of the nation and its people. It is the constitution that keeps the nation ticking and alive.
Right, right. Great. So yeah, it's a very good way to put it across. So is it all your ideation how to go about the illustrations and how to put things around the book in form of illustration, or were there other people also to help you with this?
Of course, there are other people. I don't believe that any book can ever be created or produced, only by the author. There are so many people that who are behind the book, and in this case, I had some excellent. You see the names over here: Shalini Soni Mazumdar and Shubham Lakhera. They are excellent artists, and together we would sit and brainstorm every page of the book. We had one principle, one basic principle that we followed, which was actually given to us by the executive publisher, Payal Jaipuria of Wonder House Books. And she said that every picture on each page must express the content on that page. So
Right.
they have to link up in some way, and they must be relative, the illustrations. So when we sat down, we had this group. The artists were there. I was there. The designers were there. Manpreet Aiden as well as Tausif Khan, who were the designers from Wonder House Group.
Okay.
So they were all there, and we would sit and literally discuss every page. That how can we possibly illustrate a particular concept on that particular page? So again, I'm going to use the book to show you some of those concepts. For example, if you see this picture here, it is showing, it is a concept, it is illustrating socialism, or the
Right.
India is a socialist state. So you can see the people who are there on it. There is a
Right.
person in a
Right. Right.
wheelchair, there is a farmer, there are so many different kinds of people to show that this is what is socialism. When all these people have equal rights, is when socialism actually works in a country. So, so these were the ways that we tried to show, visually how a particular concept will work in a country. I'll show you just one more. So this is to show the election process. And we have compared the election in our country to an election in the classroom. Just like children will elect their monitor or their class head, in the same way we elect our leaders.
Right, right. So, how much time did this entire book, I would say book, not even book writing, from book writing to putting the illustrations together and the graphics together, how much time did it take you
First and foremost, it took me a lot of time to research.
for the research, of
Yeah,
course?
I
Yes.
mean, of course, I went to most of
Yeah.
the places I went to were government sites, and I had two excellent books written by an historian like Subhadra Sen Gupta, as well as a eminent law person who is Leela Seth. So they have written is about the Constitution for children. So I use their books as a reference, and then I went to a lot of these sites because literally every word had to be researched. So that is what I was doing first.
Yeah.
Then I decided what I'm going to keep, because you can't possibly talk about the entire constitution. It's not possible. So I had to decide this is what I'm going to take for the children, for young readers, and this is what I think they can read when they're older. So that was the next decision. Then I started creating the content for every chapter, and that took me a year at least to actually start writing and complete the writing. And then when I submitted my manuscript, then we all sat down with it, the entire group, the entire team, artists, designers, and the editorial group, and we sat and we really not only designed the every page, but the editorial team of Wonder House, excellent editorial team, they nitpicked every fact to make sure that it is correct in every sense. There's no nuance, because when you are simplifying language or you're simplifying a concept, you can sometimes distort it by using a particular word. You may feel that
Yeah.
this is simplifying, but then actually the concept
It,
has got distorted.
yes, yes.
So they really went through every word. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the contribution that they have made, because today, when I'm standing next to this book, I'm here, the book is next to me, I can put my hand on it and say that nobody will find any errors anywhere.
Okay, yeah. So even I've gone through this book, and I think I probably finished it in an hour. And this was very interesting, intriguing, very gripping. I mean, for someone like me, I just kept on turning the page because it was so colorful and so well done. It was kind of stimulating the mind that one just keeps on reading the book. And also, I noticed two things. One is, after every chapter you have something like, did you know what, there's a question answer thing about whose answers are given towards the back. And those questions are, I won't say they are very simple questions. They are definitely questions which could be asked at a higher level exams as well, but they have been put in such a way that one would definitely remember that. So towards the end, I also went through and checked all the question and answers. But what prompted you to add in that bit in this book?
So, did you know, of course, was to attract young readers, because quirky facts is something that always they always like to know, and
Hmm.
the part which is find out, which is basically a research trigger. I did that very purposely because I did not want the children to be just passive readers. I needed that they should think about it. They should be able to reflect about it. And the best way to do it is to pull the reader into your book. So by this research trigger was basically a kind of pulling the reader in and drawing the reader into your book. And I have also noticed that when any of us, I mean, it's not to do with children only, but any of us, when we research and then we find out a fact, firstly, that fact will lead us to many other facts. So your
Yeah.
research becomes that big. Number
Yes.
one is that. Number two is, when you have found a particular fact relating to a particular topic, you feel that you own it. You get this emotional kind of a relationship with that particular topic or fact, which gives you an ownership. And I wanted the kids to feel that, so that they not only feel an ownership with what they have discovered, but also with the topic to which it is related, and to the book, and eventually the constitution.
Yeah, right, right. So also the second thing which I noticed is, so generally the sequencing of the book, it has been done in a manner that you start with the smallest thing, and then it gets bigger, and towards the end is where we talk about the legislature, and then we talk about the executive and judiciary. I'm not sure if media is also mentioned there, but all those pillars are mentioned towards the end.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's gradually building. On the contrary, how we have read it is, read it, first about the legislative and executive and judiciary and all those things, and then probably who were the people behind it or the history behind it and all those things. So it is generally the sequence that you chose is basically not the regular sequence. It's a little different. So in fact, it's quite opposite. So what made you choose this kind of sequence?
Maybe because I like history. So I chose the historical chronology,
Yeah.
of the book. How was the constitution made? And the first few chapters, in fact, tell you, why do you need a constitution? What is the reason?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and uh, what is the relationship between a country and a constitution, and how far back that started? So I bring it from there and give you examples of course, Ashoka, who's that is the first, I think, written anything written, even if it is in stone, anything written about the laws or of a country that we know, we have the earliest form of it. And so I bring him in, and then I bring out as to what was the situation in which this constitution was written. So I do say that yes, the people who started writing in the Constituent Assembly, they examined the constitutions which were already prevalent in the world, And they
Yeah.
chose from each constitution what they felt would apply to India. They did not do so blindly,
Hmm.
because India as a country has its own nuances, its own culture, its own society. And all these people, since they were also a part of the freedom struggle, they have they came from different parts of the country and they had different experiences. And they wanted to make sure that the negative experiences of being enslaved by the British is not repeated by any government. And that is why they have made sure that no government is able to dominate the nation. Also, very important, many constitutions of the world, of different countries, are not written. But our constitution wrote down everything, including the directive principles, so that any citizen, whatever the age, can straight away go to the constitution and find out whether this is a right, whether this is a duty, whether this is the directive principle, and how is it supposed to apply. That's a very, very important thing, actually.
Yeah, so that actually takes me to my next question, which is basically you have also woven in ideas of rights and duties in the entire book and how important it is. But why, according to you, these seeds are important to plant, especially if we talk about civic awareness, especially in that age group of children, which is 10 plus to 15, 16 approximately.
Yes.
Yeah, so why do you think that is so important? And you have really beautifully tried to address that.
So, what is happening, Avantika, when I look around myself, I find that this interlinking of rights and duties is getting lost. Is getting lost because the world is completely focused on materialism, and it is focused on, I'm sorry to say, but unearned entitlement, and from a very young age.
Right.
So people are demanding rights, but they forget that they also have a lot of civic duties. Even a small thing like voting every 5 years is something that people are finding difficult to do.
Yeah, but that's a very that's a certain section of society which is finding it difficult to do. People who are generally not, I would say, affected by the decision making because they themselves are so they're
Privilege.
coming from privilege basically.
Yeah. So what I wanted to tell them that every right, I mean, I've shown various examples in the book that every right that you feel you should get has to be only when you have completed, carried out a duty. As Mahatma Gandhi had said, I'll just quote, the very performance of a duty secures us our right. So they have to go hand in hand, is what I've tried to sort of show in through various examples for the young readers.
So, how do you think this book will be able to reach to the target group? I mean, one is, of course, they purchase it, but most of the kids might not go and buy it, because though it is illustrated and it's a very good way to putting it across, but still a lot of students might not come across it, might not be so prompted, tempted. Anyway, now kids are moving from books towards other things like YouTube and other things. So how do you think this should be targeted to the exact, the children, the people who it is made for? Also, do you think it should be included in the curriculum somewhat?
So, first and foremost, a lot of schools have shown interest in having it as in their libraries.
Okay.
A lot of schools have done. So I'm sure it will go in as a reference book in the library. In fact, principals who saw this book, they said, we don't just want it for our children, we want it for the teachers.
It is that good actually.
They are able to use these examples, when they're teaching about the constitution in the class. So yes, as a library book, it is going in. Well, the publishers have said that there is already some discussion, some work in progress about creating a smaller, a kind of a smaller size book of the same book, but it will be on a smaller size, so that it is easily can be easily handled by children, and well, schools might prescribe it. So they are already thinking in those terms, and they are also thinking in terms of translating it into other languages.
Okay.
Yeah. So that it can, and maybe I don't know. I mean, Shashi came to launch it, and he did say that you should tap government sources and find out if this book can go into government schools. So, I mean, the possibilities are very, very wide, and for this book, let's see how how much of it happens. The potential
Yeah,
is
because
the idea of this book.
yes, I mean, because this is a book I feel, I personally feel that more and more students, children should have access to, just to understand the basis of it, because this could actually could be also used for building and for exams and things like that, entrances could be
Absolutely.
used like that. But I just wanted to understand how you are going about it. Also, ma'am, anything else that you would like to tell us about this entire journey of you teaching around this topic, and then ultimately coming up with this book? It must be a long journey, I believe, must be a decade or so.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, anything intriguing or anything that you would like to share with the audiences?
You see, Avantika, there is something that we constantly forget as adults, which is that we always feel as an adult that children or young people are too young to contribute to any kind of nation building. And I simply don't believe in that. Because, first and foremost, every person born of Indian citizens in India becomes an Indian citizen the moment that person is born, and acquires all the rights, duties that are enshrined in the Constitution. So, what I have, I mean, like you just said towards the end, I am now talking about how the Constitution applies to the young reader's lives. And there, I constantly tell the young reader that it is up to you. Don't think that if you want a world, if you want a country which is free, which is liberal, which is equal, it will come to you on a platter. No, you have to build that country through your own actions. And then I ask them to reflect. The Constitution gives some basic rights to all the children of this country. But are all the children of the country actually getting those rights? Is every child in our country getting sufficient food to eat? Is every child getting the free education? Is every child getting health care? If not, then it is up to those people who are getting it, who come from the privileged sections of the society, to go out and make sure that these rights go out into among the population, go to all the children. So that is also something that I've given. I've given various ways that they can do it, very simple ways, something that they really don't have to work too much for, but an awareness, a consciousness is there in them that we can do these things. You know,
Right.
yeah. So a simple thing like, everybody stays in the society, they can just go around and collect maybe medicines, which are, or collect clothes, and then they can, contact those agencies which are going out and giving these to the underprivileged children. And it's a simple thing, as simple as that.
Yes, understood. So I can now recall reading a chapter about it where
Yeah.
you have mentioned about the equality and how it is. I mean, it's difficult to implement because it's not served in the platter, like you mentioned. So this was about the Constitution of India, the illustrated book that you have written. You have also written historical, mythological fiction. So tell us a little bit about that as well.
So I have written narratives which are based on history, not mythology. Just to sort of
Okay,
put clear.
okay, okay.
So I have always been interested in history. I'm myself a student of English literature, and you cannot study English literature unless you know the history, with at every period where the
Yes.
literature, where literature has changed, and so on. So I have always been interested in history, and that is the reason I have been right. It's also one of my favorite genres for reading. I love reading historical narratives, and that is the reason that I decided that I must write about people or personalities who have somewhere they have, you know, touched a chord in my uh, life or in my heart. So that is the reason I usually write historical narratives. Besides, and you will find that most of my historical narratives are about personalities. And the
Okay.
reason for that is that when I start delving into the lives of certain personalities, I find that what we just read in a history book is not enough. Those people have had to struggle against personal hardships and dilemmas to actually find a place in history. And when I start researching about them, I find nuggets of wisdom. They inspire me with their strength, their conviction, and how they have struggled. So somehow I emotionally connect to them. And that is how I think I have always written mostly about personalities. If you find my historical books, they are all about personalities. And of course, it needs a lot of research. And sometimes you find that what historians have told you or what you read in history books, in school or whatever, is not necessarily the right interpretation. And I will give you one subject, one topic like that, or one personality is Genghis Khan. So
Okay.
Genghis Khan we read that he's a barbarian, he's uncivilized, he's a nomad, he's bloodthirsty. But what historians have not put in their, have not told us about him is he was a person at a time when women in Europe, who considered themselves civilized, did not have any rights whatsoever. In his empire, the Mongolian Empire, he made women matriarchs of the family. They were the heads of the family. He gave them property rights. They were the ones who owned property, not the men.
Okay.
At the same time, at a time when Europe was embroiled in crusades,
Right.
religious crusades,
Mm.
at that time, 11th century, he welcomed different religions into his empire. He gave them equal respect. People in his empire had the choice to practice any religion. At that time, he made the Mongolian Empire secular. So, will you call him uncivilized? I think he was more progressive than the historians who wrote only negatively about him.
Right. But then, how were you able to do such an in-depth research about his characteristics? Because it has been written otherwise in most of the places.
So I, of course, my research takes a lot of time, as I told you also for the constitution, it took me quite a few months to do the research. So I would go first, of course, to books. Then I would go to archival documents. In the case of Genghis Khan, I downloaded a ancient document, an ancient manuscript, I would say, a book, which was written during his time. He commissioned it. It is called the Secret History of the Mongols. Of
Okay.
course, I read it it translated into English, but I downloaded that, and that gave me so much information. Also, I would, I picked up blogs. I looked at documentary films. I, in fact, saw a beautiful Chinese documentary film. I did not understand any of it, but through the pictures, I understood the story. And I
Okay.
also contacted a person who is a well-known Mongolist. He
Okay.
is Dr. John Mann, and he's a professor at Cambridge. So I sort of, had very long conversations with him, and he was the one who actually gave me the guidance that you go to these documents, go to these books, and you will find so much more about him. He himself, of course, has written a book about his travels in Mongolia and all the places where Genghis Khan had been. So from that, you really get, I mean, it's a beautiful book. He speaks about the culture, he speaks about the prophecy. When Genghis Khan was born, it was prophesied that he will bring all the Mongolian tribes together and create the Mongolian Empire. And at the zenith of its power, the Mongolian Empire was one fifth of the world's land area. So you can imagine how big it was, how vast it was.
Right. So you have also written lot around strong women and strong women protagonists in your books, historical books. Tell us a little more about those characters.
So yes, I have written about Padmavati, the queen of Chittor. I have written about Parvati Bai, who was the wife of Sadashivrao Bhau during the third battle of Panipat, a very, very important turning point in India's history. And even when I'm writing about Genghis Khan, I have also written about his wife, about his mother, very, very strong characters who influenced many of his decisions. I have written about Nadesh Shah, and there again, I've written about his first wife, who influenced a lot of things that he did, actually, a lot of his activities. So, you know what, Avantika, I believe that women over ages have actually changed society and changed history. They have never been passive observers. So
Yeah.
some women would have found their voice, and expressed it freely, would have found the power to express it freely. And there would be other women who would influence the men who have the power to actually carry out any action. But for whatever they did, they were the change makers. Because you see, Avantika, women have the ability to see the bigger picture. They can see the future. And that is why they are able to push circumstances to an altruistic goal because they are not hampered by certain things. And what are those things? They are not hampered by ego. They are not hampered by finding sexual dominance, and they are not hampered by violent fantasies. Three characteristics, I believe, which blind men,
Yeah, I mean
not
this
reach
is
immortality.
this is quite deep. But yes, you are absolutely right, and that is why they are more strong also.
Exactly. You will never find any woman, any human being as resilient as a woman.
Right, absolutely. So, writing and actually researching and writing such an in-depth historical fiction, historical. It's not exactly fictional; it's non-fictional only, majorly. Such kind of books, and then moving to the Constitution of India. Of course, researching and writing about it, but that's not it. Putting it in the illustrated format and putting it out to work for the children. How has this switch over been for you, or this change in way of writing been for you?
Yes, I agree that when I'm writing a historical narrative, there will be portions of it which would be fictitious because obviously we know a particular event, but we don't know the conversation or the dialogue that went with it, right? So while the historical facts remain exactly the way it was, dates, figures, everything remain as it was in my books, there will be linkages, the connectivity of these events would, I mean, naturally have to be fictitious. But when I'm writing a non-fiction book, and I've written another one, let me just show you the book. This is not the first one that I wrote. This is another book that I've written, which is called The Birth of My Nation.
Okay.
So this is again a non-fiction book, and again for young readers. So when I started writing non-fiction, the first things that I had to keep in mind very strictly was to detach myself. My views, my opinions, my emotions had no place to play. When I was narrating a non-fiction, I had to totally focus on facts, on figures, on dates, on actions,
Right.
and express them with clarity, with accuracy and objectivity. But somewhere along the line, I had to pull my reader in. So I had to develop that skill that I'm objective, there is nothing subjective in it, and yet my reader is in full empathy with whatever is written in the book. So that was a skill I had to learn. It was very much a learning that I had to go through. And I only hope, I mean, there's so much more to learn, and I hope I'll get more and more opportunities to, put my learnings into application and learn more.
Right. So, circling back to the main book, I mean, the current book, The Constitution of India, what is it that you would like to tell our audiences, our viewers, about this one book? And essentially, they might not be 10 to 16 years or 15 years old. They could be their parents as well, or, siblings or someone in the family. So, what is it that you would want to tell them?
I have a very simple message because a lot of people who bought this book, a lot of adults who bought the book, they bought it maybe for their niece, nephew, or children, but they all said, first, I'm going to read the book.
Yeah,
Because
I'm also one of them.
yeah, because there's so much I don't know about the Constitution. And let me tell you, Avantika, I mean, this is a common factor. I myself did not know so much about the Constitution until I started researching.
Right.
So I can totally understand that there are a lot of adults today who have been born after independence and yet they know hardly anything about the Constitution, which has been so much in the conversation lately. So my
Okay.
message would be the Constitution of India is not just a book, it is our life. And we must read it with that insight that this applies to our life and applies to the world around us. And if we want to build a better nation, a better India, we need to know our Constitution. Because, as I have said many times in my book, the Constitution of India has been written by the people of India, by the citizens of India, and then gifted to the citizens of India. So it is a gift that we have given ourselves. Shouldn't we know about it?
Yes, absolutely. So this is basically a book for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a book for everyone.
So thanks a lot, Sutpaji, for giving us your precious time. We had a quite a good conversation, and I'm
I had a
sure
wonderful time with you, Avantika. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
same here, and I'm sure our audiences will also, get a lot of insights from this discussion.